Hello and welcome to The Third Side. My name is John Edwards and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And as promised on our last episode, which was our premiere episode.
Yes, it was.
We are bringing you an entire episode of the strange, the bizarre, the paranormal news. And I'm really excited about that because,
like the news.
Yeah, I love the news. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's been so much in the last few years just getting weirder. Mm-hmm. You could talk about weather. You could talk about just, you know, countries being overthrown.
A whole show on sinkholes.
Yeah, you could just do a show on sinkholes and
places.
mysterious booms, weird noises in the sky. Is it above? Is it below? I mean, there is some crazy stuff happening out there, and we're here to chronicle that for you. So don't fear, the world may be ending, but we'll be your guides and we'll make it as comfortable for you as possible. I want to tell you how to like us because you are going to need us. Facebook.com/Third Side. That's spelled out. Third Side. Facebook.com. Give us a like. Give us 2 likes. Make some fake accounts. Like us there. Twitter. Now this one we had to, unfortunately, send a production assistant into the pit last week. That's right. We had a lovely, incredible debut show, and we got the Twitter wrong. But it was because of the one production assistant. So Henry's no longer with us. He has been fed to the lions, which we do keep here to Aben Studios. You just never know what you're going to find in the caves below Aben Studios. More foreshadowing, if you will. YouTube, search The Third Side.
So technically you didn't give him the Twitter address.
I didn't.
One. No, you should give him the correct one.
Do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Do you want me to use the German 3 again?
Whatever
Okay.
you feel comfortable with.
It's at the number 3. 3 Side Para. That's our Twitter, at 3 Side Para. There's a whole lot to that name, and we won't get into that either because, you know, then we'd be giving it away.
That's right.
And we don't want to give it away.
You have to have something mysterious.
Yeah, there'd be like pyramids or something like that. And we would never say that out loud because then we would once again be talking about, you know, the backs of dollar bills or the people who come up with such artwork. But instead, what we're going to do is once again remind you to please give us a like. We're going to have some amazing guests coming up in the weeks to come and some amazing news. And speaking of news, it's time for that intro.
It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact.
Okay. News. All news this time, so we got a lot of it to talk about. So we're going to start.
So I can just like go in the other room and rest
No, you have to talk about the news.
It's the entertaining banter between us, isn't it?
That's the requirement. I tell you the stories and you give me your opinion. That's why everybody watches.
If people only knew, like we could put a live cam on 24/7. You're telling me about your day and I'm sitting there giving you my sarcastic retorts. Mm-hmm. Retorts, is that correct?
I don't know.
You don't know.
But that explains why you enjoy the news segment so much.
I do enjoy it. Okay. Anyway. Give it to me, baby.
So last week we did the show about aliens and the and the UFOs, and we were talking about a story, and we mentioned the Vatican and aliens and their view on it.
Yes.
And we kind of just breezed by it. We didn't really expand on that, which is really not like us because we talk about everything. So I thought that I would just go ahead and bring it up to start off this show about the Vatican aliens because...
Oh, I remember we talked about like how crazy it would be for the Vatican to have any kind of hidden proof of aliens because they would probably have it in some kind of secret library. But if they had a secret library, they'd have to keep it from all of us. Mm-hmm. And they would never do that. It's silly.
But the story we were talking about is how NASA came out and said that we should find alien life within the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. So, and we mentioned the thing about the Vatican. So I just wanted to point out that the Vatican, back in March, the Vatican Observatory with the University of Arizona, they had this conference with about 200 scientists that all came together. And the purpose of that particular meeting was how can we find life in the next 2 decades.
Really?
Yes, and that was in March. And then in July was when NASA came out and
said, hold on a second.
You know, hey, we're probably going to find alien life within the next 2 decades.
Okay. So the Vatican, their whole meeting was, how are we going to find life?
Right, just scientists get together to talk about discoveries and things and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, it's easy enough. They could just, drive to the, government bases and talk to the guys that's reverse engineering
Anyway,
it.
exactly.
So theirs was how to find life, and then the NASA's
The NASA thing was just a public kind of...
that we're probably going to find life.
Right. The guy just made that statement.
But they
in,
both
like, a
said
public
20 years
statement.
in it.
Yes, both said 2 decades. And what I thought was really interesting is the director of the Vatican Observatory. His name is Jose Gabriel Funes.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. He's actually been with the Vatican Observatory since 2000, and he's been the director since 2006. And
I wish his name was Eli Schultz.
not the first time they've had these conferences. They had one in 2005,
Right.
they had one in 2009, and they always bring scientists together, and they always talk about, space and the possibility of aliens, that sort of thing. And he actually had an interview back in 2009, which was the first time that he stated that finding the existence of alien life would not be a detriment to the Catholic religion.
Right.
So he's always thought that, and he's always been interested.
I mean, let's face it, though. I mean, to be fair, the Catholic religion is still around, and they've faced some pretty...
This is true.
Yeah.
But, he's the one that's always been around saying that. And then, of course, the Pope came out in May and said they'd just baptize him.
Yeah, of course they would. Yeah.
Get that congregation in there. That Mayflower, I don't know. But, so I just wanted to, we kind of skimmed over that.
I think it's somewhat of a gray area, though. So...
That was kind of corny.
It's a little
good
bit
try,
corny.
though. Good try.
Thank you.
But
Points
I thought,
for effort.
I'd just stick that in there because it is odd, the timing on the Vatican thing and the NASA story that we did.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So on the same kind of vein, it was funny because we talked about how NASA said they were going to find life, and I joked that, I hoped when they did find life, it wasn't an amoeba. Or something silly like that. Yes,
and
you
then
have to,
and then the next day, the next day after she says...
after we taped that.
After we taped it,
Yeah.
yes.
There was the news story about the Russian cosmonauts that were taking samples from the outside of the windows of the International Space Station, and they found plankton, living
Not plankton from like SpongeBob.
Yeah, living plankton.
He wasn't
on
like,
the
"Throw it
outside
again!"
of the windows.
Right.
And so the report I saw on that, it's not been verified. It's still unconfirmed exactly. And NASA says that the plankton probably just hitched a ride from Earth because, they live in the oceans or
Problem
whatever.
with that is there was no... I mean, seriously, there was nowhere near from the launch site that had, plankton and all this.
Yeah, but they do know that organisms like that can live in space for several days with no oxygen or, in the vacuum of space or whatever. But this was it was funny because it's just the Russians found it on their side of the International Space Station. They haven't checked into the other windows. America hasn't done any kind of study. I just think it warrants further investigation.
It does.
I think it was interesting and that they should,
You see, I don't really get that excited about those things. I don't get excited about we may find some form of life and water on a distant moon in 5,000 years. I don't get as excited about that as some people because there's freaking aliens on the planet. Okay? There just are. Hate me if you must.
I agree.
But it's really a cover story for other things. So
A distraction.
A distraction, yes. But that's okay. We'll still cover the distractions.
Okay, so moving on. I saw this story recently about national parks and people disappearing in national parks. And I know this is a subject that you think is very
it's a subject that I've really been interested in since because I'd already had picked up something on national parks and about there being some kind of... Now, this is completely... this is not something I've read, but I had already had a feeling, you could say, that there was some reason the governments initially picked national parks to be national parks.
Right. And some national parks are so large. I mean, there's areas that people just don't visit.
Let's just say for a moment that there's a reason that these lands are protected, that well, let's call this a national park. It's beautiful mountains, but there's beautiful mountains everywhere. is there a reason? Maybe there's something they're hiding. Maybe there's something in that area that they need to keep protected. And that had come to me a while back. And, it's so these stories, these disappearances, has really sparked my interest. And I even talked to Nick Redfern about it last week. And whatever the phenomena is, it's insane. And Stacey, I'll let you continue.
That's fine. Well, this particular article that I read was posted recently, but it was actually a repost of something that was posted earlier in the year. And there's a video, and it's like a 25-minute video. And the video is of several different interviews with an author named David Paulides.
Right.
But the video is a little strange. And it's funny because I started watching it once and I stopped it before I got into the interview part. And I didn't realize what it was, but then I went back and watched it again and suffered through it. But the first minute of the video, someone has put this introduction on it. And it's like...
It's from that movie.
Well, no, not it. Yeah, it's like if you go to church and they try to show you the rapture video and scare you.
Right.
Because everybody's gone and their clothes are laying there and there's just dust and you're wandering around like,
right.
Oh, why haven't I even... Yeah, that kind of video. And so I was just kind of like, what is this?
Now, how is it again? Okay, just wondering.
And then it goes from that into a scene from that movie, The Forgotten, with Julianne Moore.
Right.
Right. So I was totally confused. But then after a minute, it actually gets into the news stories, which they should just start it off with to begin with.
Right.
To make it less confusing. But the first one that's on there is actually a news program with George Knapp on it, talking about it. And then they have all the interviews with the author, David Paulides, who has written books on this phenomena of all these people that have gone missing and nobody knows where they've gone.
Right.
It's just completely unsolved cases where he has compiled them and put all the facts together and just put them in these books. And he actually has 4 books now. I think at the time of some of these interviews, there was just 2.
Right.
But now there's 4, and all 4 of the books are titled Missing 411 and then some other part of the title.
Yeah, anytime that you hear this guy talk, it is so interesting, and it's scary. Some of the way that the disappearances happened, I'm not talking about just a random disappearance, okay? Not the like bad relationship, somebody gets away, something like that. I'm talking you turn your head for 2 seconds and your kid's missing.
Right.
And you come back from that and they can never find any trace, and when they do find them, a lot of times they'll be like unclothed or
sometimes the clothes are folded neatly.
Right, or the clothes are on inside out or something crazy. It's completely insane. That needs to be looked at more, and hopefully, David Paulides he's really led that revolution toward information being put out there about that phenomena. But I think there's something more to national parks in general. I think that there's a reason that this is happening, and definitely a great story.
Well, his newest book actually just came out this year, so it's not that old, so we'll have to check it out.
We actually sent a correspondent out to the Smoky Mountains to try to find it, and we never heard anything back from him. But we will try to bring you more information on the story as soon as possible.
Well, I did see an article on the same thing when I was researching this, that a guy was talking about when he was a kid and he was camping in a national park with his family, and he got lost. And the only thing that he can remember, he was only lost for a couple hours, was that he wandered away from his campsite, and he has no idea why he wandered away. Like, he can remember being a kid and just being drawn into the woods, which is a little odd for a kid.
See, the thing about that,
deep,
though,
dark, scary
you could be talking nature spirit, you could be talking alien, you could be talking, so many things, and are they the same thing to start with? You never know.
You never know. Lots of different
we don't
avenues.
know yet.
Lots of different avenues. But it's an interesting video. It's definitely worth watching, once you get past that first minute and 7 seconds or so, get into the actual meat of the video.
Boy, that first minute and a half, you really didn't like that, did you?
I just didn't see the point in it.
To be such a nice person, sometimes when you really dislike something, you can tell.
I just have to say.
So I'm going to make a special video, and I invite all of you to make a special video of just the first minute and a half, and send it all.
Things that don't make any sense.
Send it all to Stacey's email address. Should be popping up now.
Yeah, I think there's a link for our email address there somewhere. If I get a whole bunch of email of silly videos, I'm just going to I'll send them all to you. Okay, so moving on. This is still kind of on an alien theme, but there was an article about a possible alien signal in Puerto Rico. And you're going to love this because it's a story about an independent group of researchers in Puerto Rico that believe they possibly made contacts with beings from elsewhere. And it's a project that's led by Joshua P. Warren.
Oh!
Haven't heard from him in a while, have you?
Joshua P. Warren?
Yes. Yes. It's called and I'm just going to apologize because I don't think I can pronounce this
Alone
correctly.
in a Haunted Guatemala?
No, it's called this.
Oh, let me see that again.
This.
The Arecibo?
Yeah, Arecibo Project. I think that's how you say it. I'm not good at pronouncing things. But it's led by Joshua P. Warren. He's the director of the Bermuda Triangle Research Base. And what they did was they spent the day transmitting radio messages into outer space. And
To try to recreate the old one from 70s?
Yes, the WOW signal. It's actually on the anniversary of the WOW signal. That's
Very
why
cool.
they did this. And they had a live streaming.
I think I hear paper falling.
They had a live streaming webcam going on. And it was like an event, but they did catch some anomalies.
Right.
And so on this article, there's all the links for all the videos, the anomalies, and I think there's even like a 7 or 8 hour video of the live stream that they've put on there. And they did get...
If it's Joshua P. Warren, I guarantee you there's an 8-hour stream.
I'm sure. He's probably got some contraption with like a million different
He's
contraptions
very
on
thorough. He is very thorough.
But they had a variety of anomalies, and it said including a saucer-shaped object that appeared in the sky, and it was accompanied by a strange,
One big horn
high-pitched...
and one big eye?
No, not the purple people either.
I was just wondering.
So the live footage is actually being analyzed right now in Washington, D.C., and the audio is at a lab in North Carolina, but the data is posted online freely at www.areciboproject.com, which Justin will very nicely post up on the bottom of the video for us.
Right. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. And he actually asks for anyone with any kind of expertise in UFO or audio or video related to go get this data that's freely posted up and analyze it and compare it with anything you've seen before, not seen before. Let him know.
It's a smart way for hits.
It is, but it's also a smart way to get your stuff analyzed without having to
that's what I'm
travel
saying,
all over the United States. But I thought that it was interesting that they did this on that anniversary.
It is. It's very interesting. It's a great project because the signal,
Well, he seems to feel that it's very close to the WOW signal, and that perhaps it was sent as a, hey, we know what you're doing. Here's a signal that's close to that.
It's like an intergalactic SUP.
Could be, and I think that they transmitted radio messages.
Channel a Muppet for a second.
I have no idea.
I'll look away for a second. It's
They transmitted radio messages.
Channel they did
that were actually recorded by George Norrie into space. So you know the aliens all know who George Norrie is. Okay. I'm not sure why we were laughing.
I don't know. I just happen to do that every now and then. Do I look taller to you?
A little bit.
I feel taller.
Odd.
Well, actually, it's about 3 inches, but I would. Your inch is about 3 inches to me. I understand.
Okay. Anyway, next story. Now we're going to talk about Gary Busey.
Gary Busey. I love you, Gary Busey.
One of your favorites.
Yes.
So he's on a show, Celebrity Big Brother. And before he went into the house on this season, he claims that he saw the spirit of Patrick Swayze.
Well, I can get that. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but Gary had an accident and
he did.
Like a bike wreck, died, actually clinically dead.
What happened was back in 1988, a long time ago, in December 1988, he was riding his motorcycle without a helmet because there weren't.
Well, it was 1988.
Yeah.
I rode my motorcycle without a helmet.
His accident actually is one of the reasons in California why they made stricter helmet laws. He hit a guardrail, split his skull wide open, and then they were doing surgery, and he actually died on the table.
Right.
But
and then after that, he had the veil was removed to the other side.
So supposedly now he can see and speak to spirits, and he's very vocal about it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people like to make fun of Gary Busey. I mean, oh, hey, it's funny. Let's make fun of the guy that had brain damage and, happens to see spirits now. I mean, come on, people, really. I think it's a cool story. And
it is a cool story. And I like that he just came right out and said, and I think he said he saw the spirit of Patrick Swayze. It went right through him and the spirit of his dad.
Right.
And, he just went in the house and just, I haven't seen the episode, but
right.
He was just very open about it. And he's not the only celebrity that has come forward recently talking about their haunted experiences.
I think that maybe we should have an episode. I think we should have an episode where we totally just try to contact some recently dead celebrities, and like we do little tests that would be inviting to them. Like we'll get you to mold some clay, and we'll see if we can't play a little bit of music, and see if we can't have. I didn't even say the name of the music, so my producer wouldn't go crazy. And
somehow I knew that was
be
coming.
like copyright infringement.
Swayze,
but we could come around there and just
anyway
make some flaccid object or something, because that's what I would make. That's how you'll know that I'm visiting you. It's like when you see that floating through the room.
So
anyway,
other celebrities that have recently come forward.
You got to dance around the subjects, people, because if you say stuff straight out, that's an R rating. You got to be clever. So anyway, other celebrities.
Some other celebrities that have come out on television. Cher.
Celebrities that have come out on television?
No, about the ghost
Oh,
thing.
because I was going to say Cher, honey. Cher's caused a lot of people to come out.
On TMZ back last year, she said that she thought that she was being haunted by the spirit of Sonny Bono.
I think she's being haunted by the spirit of 10,000 drag dancers. I'm just saying. They all come to Cher's house as soon as they pass away.
I'm not going to get him
I
off
can
this.
turn back time. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you threw me off with that. I wasn't expecting it. Okay, anyway.
They got to go somewhere. I mean, they obviously can't go, one or the other, so yeah.
Well, if you like that one, how about the Kesha thing on Jimmy Kimmel?
Kesha's haunted snatch.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
She's had sex with ghosts and that, her vagina
and
is
now
haunted.
Go ahead, go with that story. Yes, I'll be quiet.
I wasn't going to do the whole story. I was just going to sort of mention all these, but she did call in experts to exercise, or I'm not sure. I don't
to
have
exercise.
Exercise the ghost.
Yes, I understand.
I don't have the whole story on that. I was just mentioning other celebrities that have mentioned on television about.
So Kesha says that she had sex,
has sex, like ongoing.
I'm has an incubus that follows her around. Mm-hmm. And remember Lady Gaga, we did a story a long time ago in On Land Far, Far Away about Lady Gaga actually having an EMF detector, and she would have her room searched and stuff for any signs of paranormal activity on every hotel room that she did, because she's had so much activity. So Kesha has had ongoing relations with this spirit, and she truly believes that her lady parts are...
Yes, like she used an EMF meter on her body. And when you get to the lady parts...
What kind of EMF meter was this?
I don't know. It's the special kind.
We are missing the market on this one, people.
But supposedly it only gives a reading in that particular area. So
how many lights was she able to...
I have no idea. I didn't see the episode. Just saw a snippet about it. So it's a very interesting story. She's a little interesting.
Do you think it was like one light or two lights or maybe three lights? I mean,
will you stop with
it's pretty shocking, actually.
It is. Miley Cyrus came forward about her paranormal experiences when she was doing an interview with Elle UK.
Really?
She said she saw a spirit while she was in the shower, and her and I think someone else in her family had seen some things around their house and that sort of thing. So she was very vocal about that. Emma Stone on David Letterman said that her family's haunted by the spirit of her grandfather.
Right. Well, that's
Yeah, I mean that happens. And even Ellen thinks that her new home is haunted. So a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure I saw an article recently that they are already saying that they think that Robin Williams is haunting the mansion that he died in.
By the way, love Ellen. Mm-hmm. Just have to say love Ellen. The Robin Williams thing, the sweep technology. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't.
Okay, I'm just going to touch on this because I don't have all the facts. But obviously, there's paranormal investigators already trying to contact Robin Williams.
Right.
And everybody and their brother is going to think that they've got something. But I did see something going around, and I'm sure all you would have to do is search it. Search Robin Williams, cult, EVP. Because they thought he was saying, I'm here with Dad. But the EVP actually, if you listen to it, sounds like it's saying, I'm here with the dead. And it totally sounds like Robin Williams. I mean, it sounds like Robin Williams.
Do you know where it was caught?
This guy was using sweep technology.
Oh, so.
And he was just asking. He was like asking for communication with Robin Williams, just like any session would happen.
Right.
And he was doing this and recording the whole session, and I listened to it because I listened to all that stuff, but it sounded like Robin Williams. Like I listened to it very like, okay, let's see, he's talking to Robin Williams, and
is that how you listen to
things? That's exactly how I listen to things. Next story.
Okay, the next story is pretty interesting. It is about a pilot who was flying over the Russian peninsula of Kamchatka.
Really? The Russian peninsula of what?
Don't make me say it again.
No, I was just wondering, what was it?
I think it's Kamchatka. I don't know.
Is
That's how it's spelled.
Is that how the locals say it?
Probably not.
Like where they've got like that, like Kamchatka.
Wasn't that how Russians pronounce?
Yeah, it might be.
Anyway,
it might be.
He witnessed a strange orange light below him, and it was just 20 minutes after him and his co-pilot saw a lightning bolt that appeared to shoot from the surface of the water up.
From the surface up?
Yeah, like up instead of down.
So the water was orange?
There was red glowing lights. Yes.
And they were over actual ocean?
They were over ocean, I'm pretty sure. And pretty much, there's not an official explanation, but it's speculated that it was some kind of volcano, underwater volcano eruption kind of thing. And I don't know.
So
they really don't know.
Damn you, volcano.
But he took pictures. He took pictures from his airplane, and the pictures are on the article. They're really spectacular, and there's the big orange glow. And then in the sky, there's like a green type of, I don't know, like a Northern Lights type thing.
Right,
in
so
the sky.
Aurora Borealis, like.
And the only thing that's really weird about this is the lightning that
that's
because
the whole thing sounds strange.
Both saw, and they swear that the lightning shot up, not down.
Right.
And there is instances where volcanoes can erupt and produce their own lightning.
Did you say this was like a private pilot or?
He was flying a Boeing 747 to Alaska.
Okay, so this guy could lose his job for being crazy.
Probably.
Right.
But that
gives a lot of credibility to it, because for them to actually report something, for pilots to actually report something, that's why the credibility is so up here on UFOs when they actually say something, because you could lose your job if you could lose your job. And for them to say that, then of course they had the pictures, like you said. That's really interesting, interesting.
And it was weird because there was no storm or anything. There's no reason for the lightning. It was one of those things where it was just a bolt of lightning.
Right.
And
we've seen the lightning in the volcanoes, though.
Right. Well,
it's beautiful.
There are proven instances that the volcanic eruptions do produce their own lightning, but there's no proof that actually happens if the volcano is underwater. Like, they've never seen that before.
That would be intense.
So it's either
to be scuba diving.
It's either a new thing, or it's not something that's been explained definitively, but
right.
It is very interesting, and the pictures are spectacular.
Yeah.
If you look at
which
them.
they're seeing now.
Right.
Yes. They're right around us somewhere right now. The pictures are.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. It's
okay. Sometimes I forget where I am. Yes. So, but read the article, and maybe something will come out eventually. I think it's being investigated, so someone will actually.
I'm sure it is. Ocean X.
Someone will.
Hey, it looks like the Millennium Falcon in the day. Oh, never mind. We'll never talk about that again.
An actual explanation. I don't know.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'll keep checking.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's an interesting little group of stories that all kind of deal with the same thing.
All right.
Okay.
So is this our big event?
Yes, I guess you could say this is our big events.
Our big events.
Our big events. I don't know.
It might be so cool that we title the episode after this.
Maybe.
So
the first article that I saw that brought my attention to this is about a man who died after there was a goblin exorcism. This happened in Africa. I think this is actually in Zimbabwe. But as I was looking into this article, I noticed lots of articles over the last couple of months dealing with the same kind of thing, because obviously this is something that's very prevalent there.
Right.
And so this particular story was about a 72-year-old man, and he died, it says, under mysterious circumstances. But what happened was a traditional healer called a Sika Mutanda came to the house and wanted to do an exorcism on this gentleman, and he told the family that if he removed this goblin that was attached to this man, that he was probably going to die. And the family was like, okay, do it, because apparently it was making him ill, causing him problems.
Okay, so did the healer tell them that the goblin was going to die, or that the guy was going to die?
The man was going to die.
So they were like, fine, let's take him off life support.
Yeah, well, yes, because...
So the goblin was like life support. It was making him sick, but...
I guess they felt that it still needed to be removed. So they did the exorcism.
What kind of people are this?
People that really believe.
Well, yeah, stuff. And that's what I was going to say. This stuff is prevalent, and this stuff is prevalent all over the world. And I firmly believe in, it's just the society that we're in today. They trigger you to make fun of such things, but go to Ireland for a couple of weeks and see if they don't have roads where they go around fairy places and leprechaun places. And go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. So according to his wife, as soon as the exorcism was done, the man started vomiting blood, and he died 15 minutes later.
Right.
After the goblin had been destroyed or exercise.
And for the skeptics out there, I will give them this much. If you firmly believe in something, you just totally believe in something, an exorcism can also work because you've created that in your head to start with, and you believe in it, so you believe that the power is going to take it away, and you believe he heard him talking that he's going to die. And psychosomatic stuff, it's powerful. But is it that powerful? I don't know.
I don't know. And there's lots of villages, small villages in the area. They don't.
They're so deep in culture and belief in these. You grow up, beside a river, next to your little field where you get your whatever food. You never leave that area, and the grandfather has never left that area. If they've got folk tales about a mile down the road,
Right, and that's the basis of your culture.
That's the basis of your culture. So I think that their beliefs are so pure, and and you do find in a lot of these more ancient, more untouched cultures or worlds that they're going to be praying more. They're going to rely more on stones, or they're going to rely more on what we would consider New Age or mysticism.
Right.
But to them, that's the old ways. And I think that's what's been covered up by everything in our current society, because there's not enough money paid to anybody if you use the old ways.
Well,
old ways doesn't have rules.
They have this deep belief, and they believe that there are witches and wizards, and that people are using witchcraft and black magic. And a lot of these articles, they say goblin, but they also use the term tokoloshe, which is like a goblin-like creature. It's about the closest you can get to.
That's just amazing. So they did it, and this is documented, and then the guy died.
Right. And there's actually, over the last couple months, there's all these other stories. There's a story about a goblin poisoning family's food, where a lady is convinced that her sister died because she prepared food in her house that this goblin was poisoning. And so now, where she lives in the same house, she eats everything outside. She doesn't take any food in her house. Because it was tribute to the goblin, and then they ate it afterwards? No, just because the goblin likes to cause illness.
Oh, because if it was tribute, then this essence is gone out of it. So
no, I'm not an expert.
From what I hear,
I'm not an expert on their culture or their strict beliefs, but I'm pretty sure they feel like people ask the goblin for things, and then the goblins get retribution. They take
Right.
It's sort of a pact kind of thing.
It's still interesting.
There's several stories about schools where the teachers won't go to the school because they swear they're being attacked by goblins, that the school's been overrun. I think I saw 3 stories about that. One where some female teachers were said that the goblins were sexually abusing them. And there was one where male teachers wouldn't go because they said that the tokoloshe were, doing things to them.
Like, what do you mean by doing things?
Just like, touching them and, causing them to be sick and just causing havoc pretty much.
Okay.
There's one story just from August here where teachers at...
From now?
Yes, August
or
of this year.
Last August.
All of these stories that I found were just from the last couple months
from
this year. The teachers at a primary school fled school after their homes were allegedly pelted with rocks at night. And the headmistress of that particular school, her property was completely destroyed from a huge stone falling on her house. So you have to think about this. This is probably just something that's happened naturally. Stones fell, rocks, I don't know. But they, in their minds, they decided that they were being attacked by these goblins. And
witch! She's a witch!
So they asked for the chief of the village or whatever to send in a Sika Mutanda, a traditional healer. And he did. I mean, it's like you said, if that's what's going to help,
then that helps.
Then that's what's going to help.
Exactly.
But I mean, they stop school. They don't go. They stay away until, one story I found that I thought was just classic. A 40-year-old woman, she claims to have a goblin that she's perfectly happy with. It doesn't bother anybody. She's satisfied. She likes her goblin. But she has 2 daughters who can't be married. They haven't been able to get married. And so they went and made a complaint against their mother because her goblin was keeping them from being married. And they tried to get a Sika Mutanda to come to their house. Now here's where it gets a little sketchy. Now the Sika Mutanda told them that the reason they can't get married is because their mother's goblin is acting as their husband already, and that he needed to come and cleanse the house. So he shows up, and the woman was not having any of that and chased him away with a machete. And he left.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
This might be a little off subject. But in these said third world countries, when you are born, do they present you with a machete?
I have no idea.
Because
maybe they're handed down through families.
Yeah, almost every single story we ever get is like the villagers had, like whenever they yell shenanigans, it's not with brooms. It's like shenanigans, machete.
Think about the landscape there. You probably need a machete.
Yeah, I guess so. And those are all very similar, and that's very crazy. But, there's been stuff going on here in the States almost to that same extent over the past few months. I think you could look them all up in 2014. A lot of people in the news, in mainstream news, saying that demons possess them to kill their children, or demons possess them to do this or do that. And it's been making...
Or they think that their children are possessed.
Exactly. And it's been making mainstream news. Now, this would not have made mainstream news. I think Zach Bagans actually bought a home where one of those big things was supposed to happen. They're going to do it.
Supposedly it was haunted.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it seems that there's been more and more and more of this coming out where it's no longer just in a third. We call it different things. Anything like that is going to be kind of like watching Ghost Adventures. It's going to be a demon.
Right.
In this country, it's going to be like, demon. So, yes. But it's very interesting, though.
It is, and one of the things that I thought was interesting that pointed out is the healers, the traditional healers, the Sika Mutandas. Sorry, I got it twisted up.
That's okay.
This is just people that I guess say that they are traditional healers and they want to help or whatever, but there are articles and from years ago where they're trying to raise awareness because a lot of these healers charge a lot of money or ask for cattle or expect some kind of... Do you see where I'm going with
I
this?
do see where you're going, and I've never been for that.
Where they're using the naivety of the people,
Right,
the people
yeah.
that believe in this so hard, then they're coming in and saying, "Oh, I can do that for you."
It's not for us to judge, but I will.
Right.
I will tell you this: if it's a real problem and you really have goblins that are doing the things that are accused of, but you have somebody who can actually talk to them and get them out of the house and taking that risk on, I doubt those people can hold down a normal job because of all the freaking pissed off goblins that are behind them.
Probably.
So maybe they need some kind of money to I'm just saying, if I was going to fight said demons or inhuman spirits, which I'm not going to,
Right.
I'm going to say, hello, inhuman spirit, thank you very much, but if I was going to fight them and take that on as my life, think about all the demonologists that we have, especially when, this is what my favorite thing is, when ghost hunters first hit.
Right.
And everybody and their brother went out and bought a cheap recorder and a really bad flashlight. And they came up with the most ridiculous acronym you could think of. So you had,
everybody trying to fit words in.
You had teen tits, you had whatever, and everybody tried to get ghost, or right off the bat, I think that was one of the big ones.
Or spirit.
Or boo, or something, and I love the fact that a lot of these people had their teen demonologist.
Right.
Those guys are no longer in the paranormal. Now, you and I have been around for a while. In 1997, we had our first experience. We couldn't find a team.
Right.
Do you remember?
I think we had to go all the way to
Knoxville. Yeah. And you couldn't find a team back then. And that does date us a little bit, but we can say we got in right before the big roll in 2004. I think, wasn't it 2004 that show first came on in Ghost Hunters? I think it is, because they're doing their 10-year. But, with the paranormal boom, even I have to admit, there was a time when my field of expertise was going to be demonology.
Yes, but you didn't say you were a demonologist.
No, I did not
said,
say.
I'm interested in this.
I went to go visit people out of state that were experts in this. I talked to some experts that in the field. I read every book that you could read on the subject. And you know what I found out by doing all of my research?
What's that?
You don't want to be a demonologist.
Exactly.
It's a calling.
Not a good job.
It may be a calling, but it's not something you want to do. Because I also found out, and we, from our first experience, this stuff is real. And I would say most of our viewers out there, you're either curious or you've had some sort of experience of your own. And because you're watching this show right now, and as tongue-in-cheek as we may be sometimes, we've had experiences that we can never explain. And, the one thing you don't want to do, these darker, inhuman sides, it's scary. And it's, there is more to it.
Oh, yeah. It can affect you.
And they don't forget you either.
No, this is true. The only thing else I'll mention on this is I did see one story that wants me to say that if you are going to employ a Sika Mutanda, be careful who you get, because there was a story where
I want to see the local commercials for the Sika Mutandas.
Well, I'm sure it's just like here.
Goblins causing you stress?
I'm sure it's here.
Girls being raped?
Oh my God. Trying to get a paranormal group here. It's sort of it's probably the same thing, hit or miss. You
hit or
either
miss.
get a good one or you get
Right.
this guy.
You either get somebody touring you through downtown Historicville, or you get somebody who, has
well, this one, he had a client who was a businessman who said the goblin was making extreme demands and was threatening his safety.
Right.
And so he was going to exorcise him, and the businessman was there, and there were other people there. And he ended up somehow, I don't know, he was using some kind of explosives, and he ended up killing himself and 6 people and damaging 12 buildings because there was just a huge explosion. This is not the guy you want to get to exorcise your goblin.
Or is it?
Maybe. I don't know. So,
the goblin never screw with you ever again.
Good or bad, I don't know.
You show up with a bunch of... That reminds me of something we would see Rick do,
Only I'm sure Rick would know how to use the explosives.
It's like, yeah, sorry, we actually got a rogue one. It's just 4 pounds of TNT.
Well, it's definitely something that's interesting. If you
and
like
Justin
to do,
giggling the whole time. You guys will know what we mean later on. Give us about 20 shows, you'll know what we mean.
Justin does like to giggle.
He does like to giggle.
Anyway, so it's an interesting subject if you just want to look into that culture and their beliefs.
Gotcha.
And, you know, all the things that happen over there. It's endless
Wonder.
stories of endless wonder.
Endless wonder.
So I just want to mention one more story before we close out here. Just a little happy ending story, so to speak.
Yes.
So there was a man who was declared dead by doctors in Brazil.
That's not funny. I'm sorry, people. I know the punchline on this one. I should not have laughed ahead of time.
Bad timing on your choice. He believed he had died from the doctors believed he had died from respiratory and multiple organ failure.
It's terrible.
And so his brother arrived on Sunday to dress his body in his suit for the funeral and found the body bag wriggling in the morgue.
Okay.
And so...
Stop. You can finish the story in a second. I want all of you out there to get a visual, okay? This is the fun part. Whether you're watching us or you're listening to us right now, I want you to get a visual. You're the brother. You're in the morgue. Beside your poor departed brother. You're wanting to put on his favorite AC/DC shirt and his holy jeans, okay? And the body bag starts wiggling.
See, this is where I would have a problem because my first thought wouldn't be call a doctor, something's going on. I would be grabbing some kind of big, heavy, long stick.
No, yeah.
Whacking
it's shoveled to the brain. I'm sorry. I mean,
too many zombie shows.
Behead him, burn him, stake to the heart.
It's terrible, but
I
it's
don't care,
true, isn't it?
It is true. You killed that thing.
Stop moving.
I want to go now to that country was it Brazil?
Brazil.
I'm halfway thinking about going there myself and killing it. Kill it with fire. It needs to die.
Anyway.
How long was he in that morgue?
Well, it's funny because the brother said, let me just go on and continue. The brother said that all he had to do was put some new clothes on him so he'd be ready for the undertaker to come and collect him. And he says as he got closer, he could see the bag wriggling. I just have this visual now. And he said he went crazy and shouted for the medical team.
Yeah.
So they're making it sound like he was like, doctor, come help. But he was probably screaming like a little girl is probably what was happening.
Exactly.
And so they checked him and they confirmed that he was still alive. And it's funny, it doesn't say when he died or how long he was down there, but it said that they had already paid for his death notice in the newspaper. They had already bought the coffin. They booked his funeral. His feet had already been tied together, and his nose and ears had already been stuffed with cotton wool. He was ready to go in the box.
Kill him now. Listen, we have friends in Argentina that never miss an episode. Hi, Juan Cruz. How you doing? Love you, buddy. We have friends in Germany. We have listeners all over the world, okay? Alan Turner in Germany. How you doing? Okay? I know we have listeners in Brazil. I'm not promoting any kind of violence, and I want to make that sure because I don't want to hear next week. I don't want the news story going, famous podcast host charged with murder for,
accessory murder.
All right. All I'm saying is there's ways to tell. If you are in Brazil and his eyes seem a bit bloodshot, slow and unresponsive, or if he tries eating your brains.
Okay, so let me tell you this one part of the article that I thought was really funny.
What would you do? You're in there to dress me, would you?
I told you I'd do. I'd get a stick and whack you to death.
And I want you to do that, Stacey. Stacey Lynn, I want you to do that.
If I've already gone through the trouble.
I want a cinder block beside the body. If we do a wake, cinder block beside the body through the whole wake. If one of us starts to move, smash the head.
If I've already gone through the trouble of booking your funeral, I'm not backing out of that.
Okay.
It's going to be a funeral.
That's a lot of money.
Anyway.
I got you. I love you too.
Okay, so anyway, the funny part of
I'm also unplugging the machine on the first day.
Once he was conscious and they rushed him back to the intensive care unit, it says wary family members decided to transfer him to a different hospital.
You think?
Probably smart on their part, don't you
think?
Yeah. So, but he was unable to speak.
Third World Memorial not really doing the job.
So he was unable to speak, so he wrote down a letter.
They're going to place that actually. It's like, can we please have the dirt floor instead of the swamp?
They didn't mention the name of the hospital either, by the way.
There's probably not a name to the hospital. It's like, I mean, there's not a name. It's.
Anyway.
I know it's Brazil, but God bless.
Anyway.
That's a pretty modern place. That's what's even scarier. Mm-hmm. It's Brazil.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway.
Damn jiu-jitsu, I tell you.
So he was unable to speak, so he penned a letter explaining that he viewed his jolt back to life as a religious miracle provided to him by the Blessed Irmã Dulce. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. A Franciscan sister who is considered...
Isn't Dulce the guy who does like the good diet for the fighters? Sorry.
Who's considered in Brazil to be a saint with miraculous powers. So he wrote that he saw death at his feet, but his faith was so great that he was cured, and that he asked this saint to do a miracle in him, and he was brought back to life. That's what he believes.
Well, that's amazing.
Belief will do amazing things, I suppose.
That is beautiful.
But there is an investigation underway at the hospital as to how this could happen. But I just thought that was a great story.
That's a wonderful story to end on, and yes, that is a high note. Brazil, they just had the World Cup, okay? Mm-hmm. We're not talking third world here.
No.
I mean, they have Gracies, they have Naserinas, they have...
so much money on that World
I have a
Cup
friend
stadium.
who goes down there. I have a friend that goes down there and hosts MMA. Mm-hmm. He's a broadcast journalist, and he goes down there and hosts like events, not UFC, but they're still pretty big. And I see pictures from there all the time, and it's not so far behind the times that you let a guy stay alive and have him in a body bag. No, Brazil, no. I know everybody wants the zombies to start. I know everybody's hoping. They're secretly hoping that the zombie apocalypse happens. It better not happen in Brazil. I don't want it to start in Brazil. No, something's wrong with that. I want it to be in a country where they like to do stand-up first and not stuff on the ground.
It always goes back to fighting.
It does go back to fighting.
All right. Well, that was the news.
That was great.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the news.
I thought you might.
It was. We really appreciate it, and since you're like my guest this week thank you for your time, Stacey. Except for the zombie story.
It was your pleasure, I'm sure.
It was my pleasure. Aw, aren't you just wonderful? All right, so it's time to shield things.
Again.
Facebook.com/thirdside. That's Facebook.com/thirdside. Yeah, maybe when you say it all sexy.
No.
Come on.
No.
It's Facebook.com/thirdside.
See, I could never do it justice now.
Yeah, well, on Twitter, it's at 3. That's the number 3. 3 side para. Mm-hmm. On YouTube, just search The Third Side, and you're going to find us.
Subscribe.
And I want to say, after last week, we had a lot of fun. Each and every week, we're going to have a lot more things. Changes to the set, possibly, that we never talk about.
That you just talked about.
That we just talked about. We're going to have, great guests. We're going to have, the up-to-the-minute news on soul-sucking zombies from Brazil. We're going to have a lot of changes, but we also want you to contact us. If you noticed our set, if you ever watched our preview show and wonder where exactly we're at, Aben Studios is a unique place. We want you to get a hold of us. Tell us what ideas what things you want to see. What changes would you like to see to the set? What guests would you like to see on the show?
Right.
And, just feel free to...
What topics you want us to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. Anything. If you're into continental United States and you want us to come on a paranormal investigation or a UFO investigation, just contact us. We will come as long as you pay for every bit of the trip and put us up in a hotel. And if you want us to come overseas, that's fine too. I'm just playing. Of course we'll come and for a minimal fee. It's just because we talked about that. You can't charge for stuff like that.
No. They're going to think you're serious?
No, they're not going to think seriously, folks. You going to think I'm serious?
Never serious.
No. The only thing serious is our stories.
Anyway, that's true.
Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the Haunted South fans. that came over to the third side, and thank you for the new fans that we have each and every day. Please share this, because going viral is the quickest way to really get this out there. And so it just takes you a second of time to share this on your Facebook and put, hey, check this out. Just for those couple of seconds, it really helps this show grow, because we are self-funded here, and so we're not sitting here like a reverend asking for your money, but we are asking for your share. And I hope some guy don't send me his wife Sharon right now, but we are, or maybe. I haven't seen Sharon yet.
This is true.
But just hit that share button. Let's build this on a grassroots thing, and we're going to bring you the best content we can possibly bring you, and we're going to bring it to you nonstop from here at Abbott Studios and from the third side. My name's John. This is Stacey. So long from the third side.